What's up, you guys? Welcome back to my channel. It's your girl Ari, and today I'm gonna be ratchet first. Okay. All right. Second, I'm going to be telling you how I can't comprehend why the trash truck needs to go by right now. Like, fix your brakes. Come on now. Let's give them a minute.
Bruh.
Today I'm going to be talking to you about how I sleep trained my baby. It was not an easy process, but it is totally doable. We decided to start on January 1st because we were like, new year, new vibes, new bed, get out of here. So for us, that meant she was about 7.5 months when we decided to sleep train her. They suggest you start as early as you're comfortable because it is a lot more difficult to sleep train a 1-year-old than it is a 6-month-old. The longer you wait, the harder it gets. So the first thing we did was to make sure we created a safe environment for her to sleep in, which meant she has her own room. She has a crib. There are no blankets in the crib. There are no bumpers along the rails. It's a comfortable temperature between 68 and 74 degrees. If it's too hot in the room, that does increase the chances of SIDS, which is sudden infant death syndrome, which nobody wants to experience. So definitely make sure that the room temperature is as comfortable as possible. I know that's not always easy. If you don't have air conditioning or if you don't have your heat on, but try your best. Also, no blankets, no toys, no pillows, nothing in the crib with her, just her and a pacifier. Another thing we did was to keep the room as dark as possible. So we have curtains and we also have blinds. I do suggest, though, that you get a nightlight because it does help. Like if you need to go into the room, you don't have to turn on all the lights. You can just kind of see things using the nightlight. So we actually used her humidifier, which is a humidifier / nightlight, and it has like a really pretty glow, which isn't too bright. And the last thing we did was make sure that there is a baby monitor in her room. So we use a camera that has a temperature monitor as well as a noise monitor. So one of the things that was helpful for us was getting her into the habit of being in her room. You want them to get acclimated at first, so it does help to kind of integrate the crib into other things that you're doing. So maybe sit them in the crib and read them a story, or sit them in the crib and, do hand puppets or something. Whatever it is that you do with your kid, try doing it a few times a week with them in the crib so they get comfortable being in there and understand that it's a safe, happy place for them. You want them to associate the crib with positive experiences. If your kid just learned something new, or like if they're learning to crawl, or they're starting to wean off of the bottle, or if they're starting to wean off of breast milk, or they're starting to get teeth, you might want to just wait a little while before you start to transition into the whole sleeping in your crib thing, because kids can only kind of handle one thing at a time, like one big milestone at a time. So wait till they get past that phase and then start it. So I know it's not always possible, but the easiest thing to do is make sure that they're not in a period where they're dealing with something else, like if they're sick, or if they have separation anxiety because you just went back to work. So just wait until that passes before you jump into this, because it can be overwhelming for your kid. Another tip that was extremely helpful for us was starting on a date that, is like close to the weekend, or is like when you have some time to be tired and know that you're probably not going to be at your best, because it can be difficult. For us, it only took a couple days, but it can take longer. So just make sure, I think we started, I don't know, maybe it was a Thursday or something. We had Friday off, and then Saturday and Sunday. So start when you have some time, probably closer to the weekend, when it's not going to be as busy and when you can afford to be a little bit more tired throughout the day, just in case it doesn't go the way you expected. And you can do it a couple different ways, but the way we did it is, I think it's called the Ferber method. Basically, what we did was we put her in the crib, you comfort them for a couple minutes, and then you leave the room. Your kid is probably going to scream bloody murder. They're probably going to cry, especially if this is the first time that they are sleeping outside of your room. So you give them 5 minutes, and then you can go back in. Don't say a word. Maybe rub their head, rub their back, whatever it is, and then you leave again. They may or may not cry again. For us, she did cry again, but it's just like you take it in increments. So each time that you leave the room, you add an additional 5 minutes to the length of time that you wait before you go back in the room. And one key thing is making sure that you're not talking. You want to be quiet. Don't say anything because that'll get the baby riled up. Do not pick the baby up either. That's going to give them the wrong idea. It's going to make them think like, if I cry, I get out of this joint. That's not the case. You don't want them to get accustomed to that. So just be quiet, comfort them, rub them, pat their head, pat their back, whatever, and then leave. So it's like 5 minutes for the first time, 10 minutes for the second time, 15 minutes for the third time, 20 minutes if you have to go back again, 25 minutes. Hopefully you don't have to go back that many times. I think after a certain amount of time, the kid kind of gets it, or they're just exhausted from crying so much that they just fall asleep, which was the case for our kid. So it took Zuri about 3 days to get accustomed to this new routine, but after that, she was perfectly fine. Now, don't get me wrong, we still have those instances or those nights where for some reason she just wakes up crying, or it's just like, she's not feeling it, getting put down to go to sleep. But for the most part, she understands, like, once she goes in there, she lays down and she knows, like, it's time to go to sleep. Like, this is a wrap for me today. So we put her down between 7 and 8 p.m., usually like 7 p.m., but I think at some point we'll start transitioning a little bit later. But it really does give us time to just like have that structure and to know like she's gone and we can do whatever we need to do. So it really does make your life a whole lot easier. So I strongly encourage sleep training. I know it can be difficult, like hearing your baby screaming and crying. But at some point you just start to like disregard it and shut it out because you know that they're safe. You know that they're okay. And unless they're like sick or something is wrong with them, then you know that like they'll be okay. So they can just stay in that crib as long as you've created that safe environment for them. So that's how we sleep trained our kid. It definitely takes both of y'all, like both of the caretakers, to be very committed to the process, or whoever the caretaker is. If you're by yourself, you need to just make sure that you are committed to it and that one person isn't going to go in there and mess it up. Like, don't pick the kid up, don't talk, don't turn on a light. Like, you need to make sure that you're both on the same page as far as how this process works. So I strongly encourage you to talk to your partner if you have one. If not, that might be a little bit easier because then you don't have anyone to worry about messing up the whole thing. So you just want to make sure that you stick with it. Consistency is key with kids. They actually do like structure and routines. So to the extent that you can get them acclimated, trust me, you're doing yourself a huge favor. So I'm going to stop now because they are chopping down trees out here, but I'll be back soon with another video. Stay tuned for more.